Book distribution, I found that when I was preaching in Delhi at JNU and University of Delhi and IIT, mainly I was preaching science. I was preaching like Bhaktivedanta Institute type kind of approach. And then out of 100 students, maybe 2% or 5% would be interested in, Bhagavad Gita philosophy. And then what I would do was we were donated a bus by one wealthy devotee, wealthy man. His name is Nataji. He passed away a few years ago. He donated buses to all the ISKCON temples. And we would fill the bus with students at IIT and JNU who were interested. And we'd take them to Vrindavan. And many of them became devotees just by going to Vrindavan. They would wake up for Mangal Arti, start chanting japa. Not many, but quite a few would join the movement. And so I'm sure some of them are disciples of Jayapataka Maharaj. That was in the 80s. As far as book distribution goes on campuses, just keep trying your best. We found that sometimes distributing books like Life Comes from Life, or books that challenge the scientific way of seeing the world, scientific paradigms, received more interest than the Gita. Of course, regular people in Durgapur, I'm sure if you go to shops and store to store and so on, that there'll be an interest in buying Gitas. So you can also try the regular people who are in the working world. The university campus I found is more intellectual preaching, where you meet someone and you penetrate their brain and you discuss them about the synthesis of science and religion. And those individuals, students, a small percentage, maybe 10%, will become devotees. And then it's more or less teaching them how to chant japa, and distributing prasadam is very powerful. We have programs all over the states where we distribute prasadam on campus. It's a really big avenue of preaching, because students they're not eating very well. They really appreciate a meal. When I was preaching on campuses in Canada before I came here, students would come just to get prasadam, and then I would teach them Bhagavad Gita. But the prasadam is what lured them in. And I'd get 50 students to come and get the prasadam. Slowly, as we made friends, they would always take books, but they would start learning to do japa. So the approach may be a little different to the bus programs all over Western Bengal, where they're going off to different places, regions in West Bengal, Assam, Jharkhand, and people, just regular people, are coming and buying books, the working people, the various people, and of course it's very, very successful here in West Bengal, and then the Namahata program. As far as the campus preaching to the intellectual and intelligent class of men, you may want to approach it by having some of the Bhaktivedanta Institute books that I have at my table, a couple of titles, 2 or 3 titles, and you can see how that works. Because a lot of these students are intellectual and they're influenced by Western type of paradigm and atheistic paradigms. They want to know, well, why should I be a devotee of God? Why should I believe in religion? Blah, blah, blah. So it's a mix of things that I did at IIT. I approach on a very intellectual level, explaining to them that the theory of atheism is flawed, the theory of Marxism is flawed, more intellectual type of approach. And then slowly, I found that many students would, out of say 100, 10 of them would become very serious about becoming devotees. And after gradually associating with devotees, and they would study the Bhagavad Gita, So Srila Prabhupada had different strategies for spreading the Krishna consciousness movement: mass book distribution to the masses, intellectual preaching, which was more a narrower field, more specific field, and then of course life membership, where uh, wealthy people or people in general would get Prabhupada's, all of Prabhupada's books, including the membership, for 35,000 rupees. At that time, when I was in Delhi, it was 5,000 rupees for life membership. But there's these different strategies. So preaching to students, I would suggest approaching on a more intellectual platform, um, having some science books and knowing how to preach science. So you have to learn a little bit how to preach from a scientific perspective, how to defeat the atheistic model that life comes from chemicals, Darwin's theory of evolution, Big Bang theory. And when they hear this, when they hear that you know science and you know the different um, arguments for atheism, and you can repudiate or refute them or defeat them, then they're very, very much interested in sadhu sangha, taking Bhagavad Gita, and so on. So, and also prasadam is extremely important. Prasadam distribution in universities, campuses, is extremely important. And I found when I distributed prasadam, they always bought books. I had every once a week I'd have, veggie lunch. It's called in the West, vegetarian lunch, for donations, and students would come, usually 50 or so, and they'd take prasad, and their minds would be transformed by prasadam. And then I'd have a book stand there with books, and I'd say you can give a donation, and they'd all take Bhagavad Gita or some other smaller books and give some donation. Yeah, Radhesham. So he has a format. It seems to be very successful. But I found definitely college preaching was more making devotees, and then they would read the books. Going door to door, store to store, you will sell more books that way. And I also suggest having prasadam program if possible, some kind of prasadam distribution where you can organize a lunch for the students. They very much appreciate that. Even in America, where people have money, the students, they really are impacted by the veggie lunch program, and many of them will start learning how to chant the japa and read Prabhupada's books. We have these things going on in some parts of the US and Canada. It's called the Krishna Lounge program, where students can come and stay and pay to stay in our dormitories on campus and practice sadhana bhakti and learn and study scripture and gradually become devotees. Srila Prabhupada told us that when he hears the numbers of books being distributed, it made him feel like a young teenager again. It rejuvenated him and inspired him so much to and to feel youthful. And also, I found that the more books we distributed, the more we could understand Srila Prabhupada's purports. The more we distribute, the more we preach. The more we preach, the more we can dive deeply into Srila Prabhupada's purports and become good preachers. That's kind of the formula. So yes, you're asking about book distribution, how to increase it. Prabhupada always said, think big, Don't be afraid. Like, maybe make a bundle of books or have a set of Bhagavatams. I mean, you can also look for various events that are taking place. Like if there are any events being taken place in your area, festivals or some kind of programs that are public programs. That's what we do in the West is we'll book a table or a kiosk, and then we'll set up, a Bhagavatam set, a Chaitanya Charitamrita set, and in this way we expose Krishna consciousness. And it's surprising that many people now in the West, they buy the whole Bhagavatam set. They just buy the whole set, $300. And they just somehow appreciate this great treasure of knowledge. They're just greedy for knowledge. And I think that's possible. I know that the Sankirtan department is distributing many, many sets of Bhagavatams all over West Bengal. I think you could try to book some events. First of all, when you're distributing books, the first thing is you make friends with people. You just don't be too attached to, getting them to purchase or take a book. Where are you from? What part of the area are you from? And I make friends with them. I explain to them who I am. And then they lower their defense mechanisms when you make friends and ask their names. Especially I find in India, people like to be asked what their name is and where they're from and what do you do and what are you studying and so on. And then from there you say, we're just showing these books. And then I open the book and I walk them through the pictures, reincarnation, yoga, the universal form of Krishna, the pictures on karma, bad karma. And then I show them the Sanskrit, the reference from professors. You just walk them through the book. You give them the book and say if they can give a small donation or anything, or if we can also say the books are sponsored, why don't you keep one? Usually Prabhupada likes us to get at least some kind of a donation. But first make friends, establish a relationship with your audience before you just throw the book at them. Hi, how are you doing? What's your name? Where are you from? What are you studying? How many years? Are you undergraduate? Are you graduate? Like that. You make friends. You establish some relationship with them first. And then you make friends. And then you show the Bhagavad Gita. And you walk them through the pictures. You show them the Sanskrit. You show them the references from various professors who appreciate Prabhupada's books. And of course, everyone probably heard of ISKCON. That's how I do it. We distribute many, many books from our book table to people. It's a bit of a captive audience, but it's very nice. But first I make friends. I don't just say, hey, take a look at this, take a book. No, I first say, hi, what's your name? And I shake their hand also. Shake your hand and make friends. Very important. And Prabhupada said, you can sell the book based on the merit of the book. You just show the content of the book. You show them how beautifully it's produced and the beautiful pictures. Srila Prabhupada said, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So you show them the pictures and they're become very interested in this transcendental knowledge. And you can also explain the various chapters, the soul, karma, knowledge, yoga, dhyana yoga, the modes, gunas, the 3 gunas, like that. Vishwarup. Yeah, make friends first. Very important. Make friends first, then show the book. Also, Prabhupada said, the more you read my books, the more you'll be able to distribute them. He also said that morning sadhana is very important. Wake up early and chant very good rounds together in a group. Group chanting is very important. Studying Bhagavatam class, very important. Bhagavad Gita class, very important. Like this, so that you have the strength and power to and enthusiasm to convince and attract people. You're dealing with intellectual students. Prabhupada said they want to know why should I be religious? I mean, the authority says there's no God. If you're studying science and engineering, most universities are suggesting that there's Darwin's theory or something. So I found at IIT the intellectual approach was quite successful. And then after that, of course, in kind of a bridge. And then of course, the ultimate is they could read the Gita and become devotees. But that was my strategy. Also, bringing them to Mayapur, I found bringing students to Vrindavan was very effective in getting them to, become devotees. And of course, prasadam distribution. Then you can bring students to Mayapur, and they'll be very impacted by the whole morning program in Mayapur. I mean, you're sure that some of them will become devotees. And of course, West Bengal, it's in their genetic code. Many of these people, their ancestors were dancing with Gornitai 500 years ago. It has to be. It must be that so many of their ancestors were dancing with Gauranga Mahaprabhu all over Bengal. So it's in their genetic code. They're extremely uh, influenced by Lord Chaitanya's movement, obviously. It's quite a phenomena, and we can take advantage of that to the intelligent class of people have to also surrender to Krishna and become devotees. I find in the West, the Bengali community, they're they like to keep in their community. Not so many of them want to be devotees of Krishna. They're influenced by impersonalism. We want to catch them and make them followers of Lord Chaitanya. And like I say, it's in their in their gene pool, in their blood. Thank you, Prabhus. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. And may we associate in the future more and more.